Good morning. And welcome to the First Parish Church of Stowe and Acton, a welcoming and spiritual community. My name is Ann Wickham, and I'm the worship host today. For those visiting FPC for the first time, we welcome you. Please let us know you are here by filling out one of our visitor information cards in the pews and hand it to an usher, drop it in the plate, or hand it to Meg, who's right here waving her hand. She's our welcoming staff member. Our minister, staff, and board are listed on the front of the order of service. Please feel free to ask me or any of these people for more information. Please know that childcare is available for ages 3 and under throughout the service in the nursery located in the lower level of Fellowship Hall. And I'll put in a plug because it's my husband that's the nursery coordinator and he does a great job. If you would like a large print order of service or hymnal or an assisted listening device, please ask our ushers. Our assisted listening devices are small radios. Anyone is welcome to use one of these to listen to the service from another space in or around our building. After the service, please join us for coffee and conversation in our fellowship hall, which is one level down at the other end of our building, or in a breakout room if you are joining us online. I'd like to draw your attention to the announcements in our order of service and also invite you to check out our webpage for more information. In particular, there's a piece in the order of service about the holiday gift drive, and I'm told that we only have 11 more gifts to buy, which is phenomenal given that there were over 200. So if folks are so inclined. And then there will be, as you can see in the order of service, there'll be times to drop off your gift on Friday and Saturday. You can also sign up there on our website for our newsletter and email alerts. So I'm very happy to present you to our guest speaker today, who is the Reverend Lindasusan v. Ulrich, they, them pronouns. They are a minister, writer, musician, and activist dedicated to radical inclusion, deep collaboration, and courageous kindness. Lindasusan has served congregations in Connecticut, Michigan, and Minnesota, is a certified spiritual director, and identifies as a gender dynamic bisexual person of color. And now, let us come together for a time of community, singing, and worship.
So today is the first Sunday in Advent. So after Kate lights the chalice, we'll also light the first Advent candle. I've got chocolate on the mind. We open with these words from Cricket Hall. In this time of waiting, may we hold the world in our hearts. In this time of waiting, may we hold each other's hands. In this time of waiting, may we be thoughtful and introspective. In this time of waiting, may we delight in the darkness and all it teaches us. In this time of waiting, may we rekindle the fires of hope, love, joy, and peace within ourselves and our communities. In this time of waiting, may we become ready for the coming day. I invite you now to rise in body, in spirit, in all the ways that we do. For the hymn number 1021, Lean on Me. And please, if you are able, remain standing for the covenant after.
We
Please join me in the words of the covenant found in your order of service. Let us say together, love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. From all that dwell below the skies, let words of love and peace arise. Let joyful songs of praise be sung through every land, by every tongue. You may be seated.
We gather today on the stolen traditional lands of the Massachusetts, Nipmuc, Pawtucket, and Wampanoag people, the original stewards of this land, recognizing their ongoing presence and the history of colonization that impacted them. We commit to learning from and supporting Indigenous communities in our efforts to build a more just world.
Good morning. I would like to invite any of our children, youth, adults, anyone of all ages to join me up front. Okay, I have a question. So, I have something in my pocket. What is this? An orange. Right? And what color paper is this? Are these two things the same? No. Right? So one is something you... Come on, Wesley. So one is something you eat, right? And one is something that you what? Color. Yes, because it's a plastic orange. Dante said technically we can't eat both of them, even though I said you can eat the orange. So sometimes we have things that are named the same thing, right? But have different meanings or different things. So the next word I want to talk about is the word sanctuary. Have you ever heard of that word? Yeah? Can someone tell me what a sanctuary is?
It's like what we're in right now.
Yeah. So the room that we're in right now is called a sanctuary. Does anyone know any other meaning of sanctuary?
A place where people like come together, or like a bunch of people are.
Yeah. So a lot of times they say sanctuary is a place where people come to feel safe, right? So after our current election, a lot of people are not feeling safe, right? And so they are looking for sanctuary, right? A place where they can come and feel safe. Luckily, Massachusetts is one of those places that people can come and feel safe and feel like they have sanctuary. Do you know that we as people can be a sanctuary? Yes? How can we make people feel safe?
By comforting them, accepting them.
You said by comforting them and accepting them. Anybody else? I think I'd like those two, right? So let's work as we move forward and being a sanctuary, especially in our next few months, right? Thank you. Oh, who wants to light my chalice today? Forgot to ask. Wesley, like you've done it before.
Our love surrounds you. Here joy has found you. Let love abound freely. Go in peace. Our love surrounds you. Here joy has found you. Let hope abound freely. Our love surrounds you. Here joy has found you. Let love abound freely. Go in peace.
Joys and sorrows is the time for the things on our hearts and minds to be heard by the gathered community. If you'd like a follow-up call from a lay minister or the minister, please email caring at fpc-stowe-acton.org. We didn't receive any online requests, so we'll start with those in the sanctuary this morning. First, I'd like to welcome Reverend Lindasusan Ulrich, and also give a thank you to Ann Wickham for organizing and facilitating today's service. Okay, for those in the sanctuary, we're loving that word today, please raise your hand and we'll bring you a microphone. Please say your name first and share your joy or sorrow. Well, then we'll just move to our two final candles. One is to remember the cost of war, and also for all those joys and sorrows left unspoken but are in our hearts.
So today is December 1st, as someone noted, World AIDS Day. This is the 36th time it's been observed. And we light this candle in remembrance of all of those who have died from HIV/AIDS, all those who live with the virus, and all of the communities and loved ones touched by HIV/AIDS. We also honor all of those working to end the pandemic and ensure that everyone has access to the health care and prevention they need. One of the most horrible things about the early days of HIV was that an entire community was treated as disposable. Gay and bisexual men were dying at phenomenal rates, and the leaders of this country didn't care at all. Parents disowned their children, abandoning them to their fate. For a while, many queer people attended multiple funerals on a weekly basis. But one of the most beautiful things was the way the community came together to care for each other. When medical professionals were too scared to go into an HIV-positive person's room, friends gathered bedside. Lesbians and bisexual women became primary caregivers for loved ones. Groups popped up to advocate, agitate, educate, and litigate. Amid so much suffering, the queer community learned how to be a sanctuary for each other. I invite you now into a time of meditation, prayer, or contemplation of ultimate things, as I read a prayer by Shantideva, an 8th century Indian Buddhist monk. There will also be a time of silence that I'll ring the bell to bring you out of ever so gently. May I become at all times, both now and forever, a protector of those without protection, a guide for those who have lost their way, a ship for those with oceans to cross, a bridge for those with rivers to cross, a sanctuary for those in danger, a lamp for those without light, a place of refuge for those who lack shelter, and a servant to all in need, for as long as space endures, and for as long as living beings remain. Until then, may I too abide to dispel the misery of the world. I invite you now to join me in a chant that I wrote. The music is in your order of service, and I'll teach it first, line by line. You can sing it back. Then we'll sing it in unison twice. Then we're going to get a little fancy. We're going to sing it in a round. I believe in you. And then we'll sing it in unison one more time. So if you think I'm pointing at you, your first part. And if you think I'm pointing at you, you're the second part. And if you weren't sure, then just pick a part. So it goes, I'll sing it first, and then we'll teach it. Lean in, I love you. Once again, I love you. Now and always, I love you. Your lives are holy and divine. So I'll do one. Lean in, I love you. Lean in, I love you. Once again, I love you. Once again, I love you. Now and always, I love you. Now and always, I love you. Your lives are holy and divine. Your lives are holy and divine. You sound beautiful. Yay. So let's all sing it together. We'll do that twice, and then we'll break into a round, and I'll point to you when it's your turn. Actually, Trevor is going to help me. Awesome. So let's all begin together. Ready? Lean in, I love you. Once again, I love you. Now and always, I love you. Your lives are holy and divine. Lean in, I love you. Once again, I love you. Now and always, I love you. Your lives are holy and divine. Lean in, I love you. Once again, I love you. Lean in, I love you. Your lives are holy and divine. Lean in, I love you. Once again, I love you. Now and always, I love you. Your lives are holy and divine. Lean in, I love you. Once again, I love you. Now and always, I love you. Your lives are holy and divine. I love you. Your lives are holy and... Now everyone together one last time. Lean in, I love you. Once again, I love you. Now and always, I love you. Your lives are holy and divine. Thank you.
That was beautiful. A Blessing Called Sanctuary by Jan Richardson. You hardly knew how hungry you were to be gathered in, to receive the welcome that invited you to enter entirely. Nothing of you found foreign or strange, nothing of your life that you were asked to leave behind or to carry in silence or in shame. Tentative steps became settling in, leaning into the blessing that enfolded you. Taking your place in the circle that stunned you with its unimagined grace. You began to breathe again, to move without fear, to speak with abandon the words you carried in your bones. That echoed in your being. You learned to sing. But the deal with this blessing is that it will not leave you alone, will not let you linger in safety or stasis. The time will come when this blessing will ask you to leave, not because it is tired of you, but because it desires for you to become the sanctuary that you have found, to speak your word into the world, to tell what you have heard with your own ears, seen with your own eyes, known in your own heart, that you are beloved, precious child of God, beautiful to behold, and you are welcome and more than welcome here. This month, we share our weekly offering with FPC's guest table. For 10 years, the FPC guest table has been serving a free monthly community dinner on the second Friday of each month. The group relies on donations to fund each meal, which runs at about $250 per month. In addition to being a resource for those with food insecurity, we are also a resource for those who want a night off from planning and cooking a meal, and/or for those who typically dine alone in their homes. Guest Table is a welcoming community for all, and we invite you to come dine with us and/or volunteer for one of our dinners. Watch your email for the monthly edition of FPC Guest Table News, where you can see the menu and find the volunteer sign-up. This morning's offering will now be gratefully accepted.
Make us aware we are a sanctuary, each made holy, loved right through. With thanksgiving, we are a living sanctuary anew. Lately, I've been thinking a lot about what it means to belong. Social scientist Brené Brown defines true belonging as the spiritual practice of believing in and belonging to yourself so deeply that you can share your most authentic self with the world and find sacredness in both being a part of something and standing alone in the wilderness. True belonging doesn't require you to change who you are. It requires you to be who you are. True belonging takes place in our own hearts and is not, as she puts it, a reward for perfecting, pleasing, proving, or pretending, or something that others can hold hostage or take away. When we trust ourselves, we can stay centered in our integrity, even when it means facing criticism or braving the unknown. When we belong to ourselves, we carry home with us everywhere. Being a sanctuary for each other evokes a particular sense of belonging. A sanctuary is a place that's holy. It's a place of refuge when forces of oppression or violence are pursuing you. It's a place of sacred renewal. As much as anywhere can be, sanctuary is a place of safety. So we consider belonging as a spiritual practice and what it takes to become a sanctuary. It's worth noting the definition of spirituality that emerged from Brown's research data. Spirituality is recognizing and celebrating that we are all inextricably connected to each other by a power greater than all of us, and that our connection to that power and to one another is grounded in love and compassion. Just want to note how many beliefs fit into this definition, from absolute atheist to devoted God worshiper. It's bound up with Unitarian Universalism's core values of interdependence and pluralism. So what would it look like? What would it feel like to be a living sanctuary? I believe that first and foremost, it's a ministry of presence, authentic listening, a stance of care, curiosity rather than judgment, a space of holding. Another way to think about it is that you'd be an instrument of that greater power grounded in love and compassion. I know that for me, there are days when I'm fully at home in that kind of presence. I'm right there with the other person, focused, almost radiating acceptance from my very skin. And other days, it's all I can do to keep my attention from wandering to the errand I forgot to run, or the newsletter article that's due, or the fact that I could have used another hour of sleep. Thankfully, even though the words saint and sanctuary come from the same etymological roots, you need not be one to become the other. Those times when being a sanctuary for someone is harder for me to access, I fall back on strategies to ground myself so I can be a ground for love and compassion. Wiggling my toes inside my shoes, paying attention to my breathing, silently and simultaneously echoing what the other person is saying. I know that sounds contradictory, but it's amazingly effective. The intention to keep my heart open makes all the difference in the world. Now, perhaps we should take a step back. Why would you want to be a sanctuary at all? It takes concentration and care, and the world is already so much sometimes. Perhaps it's not your gig, and no judgment if that's the case. We each have seasons in our life where we need to receive more than give. For me, I want to be that sacred place for others because more often than not, it feeds my soul. It allows me to tap into that power greater than myself, which then nourishes me as I'm present for another. More than anything else, I feel grateful for the opportunity. With thanksgiving, we are a living sanctuary anew. I also know that there are times when I need to lean into someone else as my sanctuary, someone with whom I can share my fears and concerns. I can be vulnerable. I can be my authentic self. Having someone trustworthy like that can make a huge difference in your mental, emotional, spiritual, and even physical health. In a meta-analysis of studies on loneliness, Brown wrote, researchers found that living with air pollution increases your odds of dying early by 5%, excessive drinking, 30%, and living with loneliness, it increases our odds of dying early by 45%. Vulnerability is essential to being who we are, which is part of that definition of true belonging. Without a willingness to go out on a limb to speak your truth and let yourself be seen, really seen, a whole lot of other things become impossible. When we shut down fear and anger, we also shut down joy and love. We can't pick and choose which emotions we access. I need to be clear, though, that vulnerability between two people is different from the kind of vulnerability that entire populations are facing right now. Not everyone can open themselves out without fear of reprisal. We're seeing trans and non-binary people assailed through hateful rhetoric and hateful legislation. Immigrants are under heavy attack, blamed for all kinds of ills that have nothing to do with them. Black, Indigenous, and people of color have been targeted for centuries, as have women. The list goes on, unfortunately. All the more reason then to practice becoming sanctuaries for each other. You'll be building the skills that offer that same sense of safety and belonging to folks whose lives are literally on the line. To have someone receive your truth and really see you, or to be that person for someone else, that's sacred. The space you co-create is holy. This is right in line with process theology, where experiences of the holy and the human are interwoven and interdependent. As theologian Catherine Keller puts it, what I become influences what you may become. Or as you might recognize in the words of Martin Luther King Jr., we are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. Keller notes, such a practice of mutuality requires a depth of self. My well-being gets caught up willy-nilly in that of others, so my vulnerability also deepens. Now that might sound a little scary at first, especially for those with marginalized identities. But according to Brown's research, vulnerability is the birthplace of love, belonging, joy, empathy, innovation, and creativity. And where a sanctuary exists, those things are deeply valued, encouraged even. Now, does this congregation embrace vulnerability and all of the gifts that come with it? One example might be how well you experiment with different ideas and see what you learn. Sometimes an idea will exceed your wildest expectations, and other times it will fall flat. Sometimes there's room to find a new way of doing things, or to tweak old ways of doing things, all of it in support of your mission. It takes a certain level of vulnerability to be okay with imperfection. In this sanctuary, the worship team makes themselves vulnerable every Sunday by standing at the pulpit, or sitting at the piano, or standing in front of the choir and letting you see them, hoping, but never knowing for sure beforehand, that something of what they've poured into the service will prove to be something you need. They try out different things, and I'm sure debrief afterwards to learn what worked well or not so well. As a minister, I'm deeply committed to collaboration, which requires a high level of vulnerability, because it means I'm not entirely in control of something for which I'm responsible. But I truly believe that magic happens when people bounce ideas off each other. Magic that's rarely possible for one person to achieve while sitting alone and thinking solo thoughts. And if we're willing to be sanctuaries for each other, those efforts will be seen and felt and appreciated, even if they don't pan out. They'll be met with love and joy because the effort itself is life-giving. The effort itself is life-giving. Indeed, one of the enemies of vulnerability is perfectionism. I call myself a recovering perfectionist because I struggled with it for years. Anything less than 100% meant I wasn't good enough, and not just on a spelling test, but as a human being. It's a horrible way to live. 0 stars, do not recommend. And interestingly, Brené Brown also found in her research that the one variable that differed between those who always wonder if they're good enough and those whom she calls the wholehearted, people who have a strong sense of love and belonging, is that the wholehearted believe that they're worthy of love and belonging. In other words, the one thing that keeps us out of connection is our fear that we're not worthy of connection. And here's where our faith tradition can help us, because universalism teaches us that we are worthy, always and already. There's no way to escape the love and connection, the love and belonging that are our birthright as human beings. We can only lose track of it. In a sanctuary, though, we can be reminded of sacred truths. Make us aware we are a sanctuary, each made holy, loved right through. With thanksgiving, we are a living sanctuary anew. Let us live into the holiness that we co-create for each other. May our hearts find spaces for vulnerability. And may we always know in our bones that we are worthy of true belonging. Amen, Ashe, and blessed be. I invite you to rise in body and spirit in all the ways that we do. For the final hymn, just Sanctuary. We'll sing it through 3 times. After Trevor, please. Make us aware we are a sanctuary, each made holy, loved right through. With thanksgiving, we are a living sanctuary anew. Make us aware we are a sanctuary, each made holy, loved right through. With thanksgiving, we are a living sanctuary anew. One last time. Make us aware we are a sanctuary, each made holy, loved right through. In thanksgiving, we are a living sanctuary anew. Friends, we are blessed to be in a community with each other where we can be in a sanctuary every week when we need it most. Let us hold that sanctuary in our hearts and take it out into the world with us. Let us go with courage and with kindness to be a blessing to the world. Amen, and blessed be.